right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are well. More importantly, tonight, I hope you are safe. Today is a kind of a crazy day. Political activist and commentator Charlie Kirk was shot at a rally in Utah, and he unfortunately passed away due to the injury he sustained in that shooting. I really wanted to just come on and talk about it from an MMA perspective. Of course, from the community's perspective, a lot of fighters have a lot of opinions about this. I, of course, have my own opinions and political leanings, so I figured that from the start, I should get that out of the way so that it informs the rest of the conversation, because inherently this is a political matter, as he was a political activist. So, to begin, I wanted to say that I myself am a minarchist libertarian. I believe in small government oversight and fiscal conservatism and social liberalism. I believe that the term libertarian has been co-opted in this country by people who don't necessarily hold those ideals, but at its core, that as far as I was informed to it, and as far as the definitions go that I ascribe to, that is how I would define libertarianism, and that is what I personally believe. I have been very vocal on this channel about being opposed to the two-party system in this country and not supporting either side of the political divide, and I feel that this kind of thing and these kinds of people further that divide. That, of course, does not give anyone the right to do what happened here, and this is a very unfortunate thing and a tragedy. It really is. So, mixed martial arts is a very politically motivated sport, it would seem, somewhat more motivated a lot of times than other major sports. MMA fighters are very outspoken. MMA fighters and people peripheral to the fighters are usually pretty strong in their opinions, regardless of what side of the aisle they fall on. And mixed martial arts is a place where you can really express your personality a lot more so than in other sports. So you get a lot of fighters who let their opinions be known on very large platforms, both politically and non-politically. So what we have in front of us here is a post by MMA Crazy, who hopefully is not going to be going around copyright striking and taking things down just for an image, but full credit where credit is due. This is from MMA Crazy, and this is a collection of opinions about this matter. This was from before we found out that Charlie Kirk actually passed away. So some of these are a little bit outdated based on that update, but we're going to go through these in just a second. What timeline are we in right now, says TJF. Yeah, it's a crazy one right now, TJF. It's just, I really think sadly to say, it's the logical progression of a divided nation. It's the logical progression of the tribalization of the populace, not just in America, but all over the world. It feels like people define themselves a lot by their politics, and they gravitate towards extremity because of their, the beliefs that they have and the amount of emphasis they put on it. One of the reasons I brought up my own political leanings at the start of this was because libertarianism, as to how I practice it, really is defined by the law of non-aggression and the golden rule, basically, where it's do unto others as you would have done to you, and don't go out of your way to hurt people. Don't hurt people, and don't take other people's stuff. Is pretty much the non-aggression principle. Not coercing other people to do what you feel is the right thing to do. Is that in a nutshell? And it seems like both sides of the political aisle in this country, especially, and others around the world, have a great deal of desire to control how people live their lives. And again, that's both sides to different extents and in different ways. But it's about control a lot of the time, it seems. And because of that, they take those beliefs and they hold them so strongly that it ramps up, sadly, into violence often. And more so as the days go on. Over time, as I said, this is a progression. This didn't start out this way. It didn't start out as toxic as it has become, but it seems to me that this is what we've been trending towards for a while, and again, an unfortunately logical progression of it. This country is crazy. You can't have an opinion without something happening. Yeah, I mean, you can have an opinion without something happening. Charlie Kirk was a person who went out of his way to platform himself with his opinions and became kind of a lightning rod for the side of the aisle that he represented. So because of that, he was more prominent and a more forward face than your average person with an opinion. Still does not give anyone the right to do what this gunman did, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's tragic. It's sad. It's a lot of things. It feels like it's one furthering of something that will end up continuing the division, which again is just a sad reality of this country, a big part of why a two-party system is inherently flawed. It divides people down a center line and puts them into camps, basically. So, when you have strong beliefs and you really feel like your way of thinking is the quote-unquote right way of thinking, other people on the other side of the divide feel a different way, and you're putting your opinions you're almost weaponizing your opinions to an extent, because you're not only saying I have this point of view, but you're saying I want the rest of the world to operate the way that I feel is best. And regardless of what side of the aisle you fall on, that is a very dangerous way to think, in my opinion. I'm just wondering how this will go moving forward with these public debates on campuses. I mean, this is one of many things like this to happen. Obviously, the president had a similar situation, not on a campus, of course, but in a public setting. There was a mass shooting today also in Denver, I believe. There was a mass shooting at a church not more than a month ago. We live in a world where the proliferation of firearms is a fact of life, definitely in this country, of course. And when the political divide becomes as wide as it has, and people have these hard and fast beliefs that they really feel this strongly about, it's just the next step. And I hate the idea that it would be that things like this would be infringements upon personal liberties, but at the same time, it's hard to deny that there is a problem when it comes to the violence that you're seeing nowadays. I mean, we saw that unfortunate incident on the train in, I believe, Charlottesville. Am I right about that? The Ukrainian refugee who was senselessly murdered. So I bring all of that up to say that it's we have a human problem, really, is what I land on. We have a human problem. We have a problem with the fact that we feed on negativity. We have a problem with the fact that we are self-conditioning to to allow ourselves to fall into these perpetual negative cycles, and we let that govern how we conduct ourselves, and it sometimes boils over into what you latch onto. So if people are politically motivated to begin with, then it bubbles over into political motivation. Some people turn it inwards and become self-harming. One way or another, there is a massive human problem that I see, and I feel like anger and negativity and hatred just are so commonplace and so ingrained in the way that we conduct ourselves in a civil sense that it's hard to think that there could be civil discourse the way that it once was anymore. So when you ask about if this is going to affect how things go on college campuses, when it comes to debates and things like that, hard to say. I mean, do you just stop it altogether? Do you just stop the free flow of ideas? Do you stop open forums in public places? I don't think that you can do that. Do you just sit and pray that things, that things get better? Do you sit by and hope that there's not another crazy person with a weapon? I do not have an answer for that specifically. I just know that like I said, it just all comes back to a human problem to me, and it goes beyond politics. It's something deeper in humanity, where we feed on negativity so dramatically. You think about it with clickbait, things like that. That's something as mundane as that. Something on a much lower level. You see a rage bait title, or a troll in a chat, or it's something along those lines. It's to provoke a response. It's provocation in general. We have a visceral reaction to that. And then over time, that snowballs, and people get pent up with a lot of aggression, a lot of anger. You pair that with a political leaning, perhaps. We don't necessarily even know that that's the case in this circumstance, because we don't know what the motives were for this shooting necessarily. But one can infer, because he is a political commentator, that there was some political motivation there. So you wrap all of the negativity that humanity already feels within the framework of politics, and sometimes it gets to the point that we've gotten to. So I'll catch up with you guys in chat here, and then we'll read through some of these MMA responses. Of course, this is still a mixed martial arts channel. It is not a political channel, but when something like this happens and is so prominent and so prominently commented on by the mixed martial arts community, that's what I think ties the two together in this instance. We're at a point where you literally kill someone at a debate, not with words. Yes, that is one of the saddest elements of where we have gotten to. And why I feel like it's only going to get worse is just because this is the precursor to tyranny, is what this is. And I'm not on any one side of the political aisle. This is precursor to tyranny regardless of the power structure, because what this is a tyranny of consciousness, in a sense. And I'm not trying to get all like deeply philosophical here and go into, like bizarro world with my speech. But what I'm trying to say is that when we are not civilized as human beings to the point where a logical, rational conversation can take place, and if two sides disagree with that they can still conduct themselves civilly. When there is a breakdown of civility in society, it leads to tyrannical oversight, because the power structure then says you can't conduct yourself like a civil individual. You cannot function civilly. So we will impose civility. And generally how that happens is top-down oversight and force. And that's where the trampling of liberty happens. So I think that that's one of the saddest things about all of these types of things, all of these types of incidents, aside from the loss of life and the toll that this is now going to take on this man's family, his friends, his associates in business. He was the CEO of the Turning Points organization that he was the face of. A lot of people are affected by this, and society as a whole is affected by this. So, yeah, very terrible. You see Myron Gaines doing them too. Oh, the debates, yeah. You see the shooting happened and the stabbing. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're in it. We're in it, man. I mean, this is the like we've been seeing this progress time over time now, throughout. At least in my lifetime, we certainly have. It feels like the 90s were a much simpler and more innocent time, which is crazy to say because the 90s certainly had their own problems. But from the 90s, basically after 9/11, it really feels like we've progressed into what we've gotten to. And it doesn't show any signs of stopping, and social media certainly does not help. Like the Raja incident, letting emotions get us where it starts chaos for a person. Yeah, that's certainly a good point. And I'm glad you brought up the Raja incident, because another part of all of this, and tying into what I just said about social media, the fact that we are witnessing this with our own eyes now, and it becomes somewhat normalized. I have a whole bunch of tabs open here, so we'll start getting to these in a minute, I promise. But Sean Strickland is going to be talking about the fact that you see this over and over. He talks about how he's fatigued and becoming desensitized to senseless violence, and that is absolutely something that I feel is a big problem. We see violence in 4K quality on our computer screens and on our phones. It's just a fact of life now. We've been seeing violence in Gaza for months, years, whatever, however long. See it in Syria. You see it in Darfur and Sudan. I mean, there is just a fundamental human problem that is exacerbated by the circumstances that we're witnessing, and this is where it bubbles over to. This is what happens. So it's tough. It's really tough. Hey, John Dong, how are you, sir? 20 in a small town and what used to be a very safe town. Nobody can walk downtown anymore for fear of being assaulted or robbed. I mean, there are certain differences to everyday violence, I would say, than this type of violence, but they're not mutually exclusive. And while there are differences, they still all fall under the same umbrella. It's humanity's propensity to harm fellow man. And that's really at the root of all of this, I feel, is, again, it's an erosion and a lack of humanity. It's an erosion of guiding principles that seem to just be normalized. Again, I feel like it's going more and more over the top as the days go on. Religion certainly plays a factor in there too. Another tribalization of people when it comes to religion. Just, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes into it, but when the end result is this, it's just hard to think that there's not some greater problem, and one that I just don't think that is going to be addressed. So when you say that you can't walk downtown anymore because people are getting assaulted and robbed, it's a greater symptom of all of the snowballing that mankind seems to be continuously going forward with these types of negative interactions and these types of violent assaults. Ohio player showing up in the chat now. I mean, he said it in the Discord correctly. I was saying I didn't even know if I was going to do this stream today because I didn't know if I could really stomach going into great detail and expounding upon this type of a thing. And he said, if you don't do it today, you're going to have plenty of opportunities in the future because this is not going to stop. And it's very sad and it's very frightening. We're a whole generation growing up on with public transportation and school being dangerous places. Yeah. Yeah, everywhere is dangerous now, it feels. If you're not inside of your own house, and even that can be dangerous. You know, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So I'll leave it at put a point-blank period on that one. Savage, good to see you, man. This shit is getting ridiculous. Poor girl on a train, too. Yeah, race and people's political views shouldn't get you killed. Exactly. Absolutely. R.I.P. Prayers to his family and kids. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing should get you killed as far as speech goes, if I'm being perfectly honest, unless you are explicitly calling for violence yourself. You know, it's the fire in the crowded theater argument. Again, non-aggression, how I would wish society could be. And things like this almost make me question my political beliefs sometimes. Just because it's like, libertarianism is founded on the idea that human beings can be civil enough to conduct themselves in a way where they're not going out and harming each other. You know, the idea is that I do not coerce you to do anything, and in turn, you do not coerce me to do anything by word or by force. By force, primarily, by word being incitement of violence. And that's a binding pact that you have to have in order for a civilized society to operate. And it feels like that just sometimes cannot be. I had a friend who I used to work with. We were talking about the Middle East, and he said, you know, because as a libertarian, I was approaching the conversation from that angle, and he was saying, those people can't handle democracy. And I thought, that is so off base. How could you say that about an entire group of people, that they can't handle democracy? They're not capable of democracy. But when you see that people are willing to go to this level of an extreme, maybe it gives you pause. I don't know. Oh, appreciate you, Chase. Thanks for checking in. I didn't agree with his beliefs, but I'm not going to make jokes about him. Yeah, no, same, exactly same. I certainly do not believe the majority of what Charlie Kirk generally would be putting out into the public, but this is not how you handle opposing viewpoints. Certainly not. Humans are no longer valued not by your government, your employer, your city, and seemingly not by the people around you. That is, man, Hydra, for a 20-year-old person, you really do know how to cut to the core of things. And that is really a nice summation of all of what I'm saying here. We don't, you know, I was going to say, I also, as a bit of a nihilist, as I've said, you know, I don't find there to be inherent value in life, but there still needs to be an understanding that you don't extend that beyond you. If I don't value my own life or the lives of anyone around me, that doesn't mean that I then go and make their lives miserable. I don't go and inflict harm or violence against them. But the lack of value in general bubbles over, and that is what we're seeing here, I believe. So, yeah, it's a crazy thing. It's just a terrible, terrible thing, and more and more. You know, again, this is prominent because this was a political activist. Think about all of the many, many victims of violence on a regular basis around the world every single day. Again, the fact that there was a mass shooting in Denver mere hours after Charlie Kirk's incident should tell you something. Shooting at a church before that, a couple weeks or months or however long ago it was. We have mass shootings like almost monthly in this country. Okay, so let's bring it back around here. We'll read through these comments. These are from Twitter, and a number of prominent MMA fighters. Again, MMA Crazy posting this, so credit to MMA Crazy. Natan Levy, who is a former UFC fighter, said we need a miracle for this hero. So what you'll see in a lot of these comments is that a lot of MMA fighters are conservative. That just seems to be the tilt on this sport for whatever reason. I don't know why so many fighters are right wing, but that does seem to be a larger majority of vocally political fighters lean right. So you're going to see a lot of people here holding Charlie Kirk up as, in Natan Levy's case, a hero, great man, this type of thing. Now, I will say, I do not believe that I would not class this man as a hero. I think that the type of rhetoric that he put out into the public was a furtherance of the political divide, and it served to continue the widening of the gap between people. So I'm going to be pushing back on a couple of these statements. That does not discredit him as a human being, nor does it, nor is it an endorsement of what happened to him. So I want to make that very clear, a very clear distinction here, that any time that I'm criticizing the message of Charlie Kirk, it does not have any bearing on the fact that this should never have happened and that this man should not have been assassinated for his beliefs. So Natan Levy saying that we need a miracle for this hero. Obviously, this was from before he passed away, and that's that. Renato Moicano coming through with the exact wrong take. I read through a couple of these. Renato Moicano's is one of them that I did read, and this is just really indicative. Honestly, Renato Moicano's take on this is really what made me want to stream about this tonight in general. He says, prayers to Charlie Kirk. What the fuck is going on? Leftism is a cancer. All the guy was doing was debating. If you're a liberal, you're the fucking problem. Nailed exactly what the problem is without understanding what he was saying as the problem. This type of thing furthering the disconnect and continuing the tribalization of people is probably exactly what that shooter wanted. I mean, I can't know that for sure, but in a broader sense, that type of mentality right there, us versus them, is why this happened in the first place. So for him to say, if you're a liberal, it's the fucking problem, you are the problem, Renato Moicano. You and the people on the other side who think like you. It's disgusting. So, I mean, this being disgusting in and of itself, this rampant murder that we all had to witness, being shared around on Twitter for the world to see, that is a disgusting thing, and this is a disgusting response from Renato Moicano. Continue on in a second here. Why is humans are jokes and laughter about horrific situations the comforting position? Just in general, you see it all the time. I even do it myself. Because that's gallows humor, and you need it. You need it because if you don't have it, then you just become engulfed by the sadness of all of it. The spectrum of negative human emotions ranges to, in my estimation, ranges from aggression to despair. And within that, you have various different ways that you handle negativity. Again, some people handle it with aggression. Some people go to the side that's despair. You want to get yourself off of that spectrum. So to joke about it is what allows you some small comfort in a very discomforting time. So don't feel bad about, making light of things when they are very serious subjects. Just know that there's a time and a place for it, and just be a little bit. I'd say have a little bit of compassion when you're going in that angle. Would be how I would class it. Hey, Didgery Dave, how are you, sir? Good morning. Imagine you want to do a debate or a small conversation, and someone just shoots you like that. Yeah, no, I know exactly. All right, well, let's continue on with some of these comments here. Cody Durden says, "What a crazy world we live in. Charlie Kirk was an American political activist who loved his country and was shot today. Prayers up for you, Charlie. I'm hoping you pull through." Obviously, we know he did not. Yes, that I think is a perfectly fine take in all of this. And I do believe that Charlie Kirk and all the people that feel the way that he feels do think that they are doing the right thing. And that's also a scary aspect of all of this. You know, it's like, I am right. I am on the right side of this argument, and I need to get my message out there so that the rest of the world sees it the way that I see it. But then again, people who don't agree with that feel the exact same way on the other side of the argument, take up arms. So I do believe that Charlie Kirk loved his country, and that I guess it's that he was a political activist. We know that, but I do think that he loved his country. I do think that because you hear the word grifter thrown around a lot, and maybe I'm wrong here in chat. You can correct me if I am, but a grifter is a person who says something like a political grifter is a person who espouses a political belief that they don't actually believe in because they're trying to make money off of it, right? They're trying to gain influence and monetary gain from a belief system that they don't actually personally hold. Is that somewhat correct? And people would say that someone like Charlie Kirk was a grifter. I don't believe that. I don't necessarily believe that. I do believe that he believed the things that he said. I just feel that a lot of what he said was politically divisive and not helpful to bringing people together, like, healing this nation, so to speak. He's been doing cringe debates for years. He was getting paid. Yeah, he definitely was getting paid. He was definitely getting paid. I mean, but that was his job. He was a political commentator and political activist, so that part is fine. It's the idea that he was, because I've seen that he was being labeled that in certain conversations. And I was like, no, I don't think that is the case. Put this over here. Check that later. All right, let's move on a little bit. Terrence McKinney says, "I just accidentally saw the up-close version because of the algorithm. Beyond disturbing. Faces of death stuff. Don't watch it. Prayers for his wife and kids." Yeah, so for those of you who are not aware, who have not seen the videos, multiple videos of it, there is a farther away shot of what happens, and then there is an up-close shot of what happens. And the up-close camera angle is very disturbing. It's very graphic. And when Terrence McKinney says that it's faces of death type stuff, he's not kidding. It is to that level. It is kind of stuff that you see on 4chan for sure. So very disturbing. Shot in the neck. And it just, really tough to watch. I myself have always, even beyond any of the content stuff that I do here in my writing, and just as a human being, I've always said that it is important to be aware of those things. I subject myself to those kinds of that kind of content only because it's important to recognize that it exists, and it does not go away if you ignore it. This right here is the best example of that being the case, that ignoring this type of thing obviously does not make it go away, because plenty of times we have turned a blind eye to all of the mass shootings that go on in this country, and more still happen time over time, day over day. But if you have not seen it, I don't recommend viewing it. It's graphic, very graphic. Sadiq Youssef says, "Yo, that Charlie Kirk video blew my fucking mind. That is insane, and no matter how you feel about him, that's some evil shit." Yes, that is beyond evil. It's vile. It's grotesque, and has no place in civilized society. But I really do feel that there is an erosion of civility in society to the point that I don't even know if we live in one anymore. And if we once thought that the United States was the last bastion of things like that, we We're supposed to be the first world over here, right? I was just watching a film, very tough film to watch as well, just completely coincidence, but I put on a movie when I do my cardio, so I put this one on. It's called Eastern Promises. It's by David Cronenberg. Good movie, but a very, very tough movie. And one of the characters in that film was a young Russian girl who was fleeing Russia to have a better life in England, and turns out to not be such a better life. So I say all of that to say that, the idea of America, the shining city on the hill, was that you come over to America for a better life. Well, is it such a better life if you're getting murdered on a train or can't have a political discussion at a school without getting shot? Look, yeah, you saw the video up close. Looked like something out of a movie. Yeah, it really did. Otherworldly, surreal, but it is real, and that's the exact reason why I force myself to look at things like that, is because it is real. And again, going back to raps that I wrote one day, the underbelly doesn't wash away. It's because you turn a blind eye to it. It's crazy that they haven't caught the killer yet. Apparently, they do have a gunman in custody, from what I understand. There is a person that has been apprehended that had an assault rifle. So, logically speaking, it would be logical that would be the culprit. But I cannot confirm that just yet. I have not gotten full-on confirmation of that. Darren Till says, prayers for Charlie Kirk, and whether his views are agreed with or not, he gives everyone the right to challenge his views while he challenges theirs. So that aspect of it, I'm not 100% sure of like the type of debating that he does. I know that there are people like Steven Crowder who go into, the Steven Crowder's the guy with like the change my mind meme. I feel like a lot of times these debaters go into these debates without any real intention of anybody changing their minds or actually like challenging their views. Like, I mean, I guess if you're saying, yeah, you like, he'll let you speak your mind and then he will go after it and pick it apart or whatever, then okay. Like I said, I don't know what the type of debating he does is or was, but I feel like almost that debate sometimes is kind of a pointless endeavor. It's almost a fool's errand because no one ever actually changes their mind. Like no one ever actually like comes around to a different way of thinking because people are so entrenched in their ideology. But if that is the case, then, great that's how he conducted himself. And again, regardless of whether you agree with his political views or not, he had the right to say them. He had every right to say them. Everybody has the right to say what they think. Now, people would say you don't have a right to protection against repercussion, but you should have a right to protection against repercussion if the repercussion is murder. It should be a fucking no-brainer. They arrested... Yeah, no, not the old guy. Not the old guy. The old guy got arrested and then got released. This is a younger guy. I saw an image. It was a dude who was getting arrested. He had kind of shaggy blonde hair, and he looked to be in his like maybe early to mid 20s, is what I would estimate. But again, that's not. There's no confirmation that he actually is the shooter or not. It's still unknown. But that's the current update. Things are still developing. Billy Quarantillo says, damn, that Charlie Kirk video is horrible. What is wrong with people? Praying he survives, but looks terrible. Yeah, no, if you saw the up-close video, you'd probably have realized that he wasn't going to survive. He wasn't going to survive that. It's very unfortunate that I'm sure the medical staff that attended to him did everything that they could, but where he was hit looked like probably got direct contact to the carotid artery, I would say. Runs through your neck. That's when you're getting rear naked choked. That's what's being That's where the circulation is being cut off, is the carotid artery. And it looks like that was hit. And when you hit that, it's arterial bleeding. There's very, very little chance of surviving that. Jared Gordon says, this world is vile. We all need Jesus. I would counter that in saying that I believe that religion is a big part of this problem. Personally, I know that there are people who are religious people who ascribe to a version of religion that is loving and compassionate, and that's well and good. But I feel like religion and religious fanaticism feeds into all of the same negativity that we've been talking about, and it certainly feeds into the tribalization that we were talking about. Did you see Moicano tweet about the situation? Yes, we read that earlier, Boris. It's here on the screen. Yeah, talking about the leftism being a cancer. So I said he is cancerous for that take. And people like him who believe things like that are cancerous. We're going to talk about Gordon Ryan here in a little bit, another person who is cancerous in their ideology. You should check out Paulo Costa's tweets too. All right, well, we will, let's do that right now then, because I didn't have that one up, but what did Paulo Costa have to say? Because I have a whole bunch of other tabs going here, so I don't want to. Is it just here? This one, R.I.P. Kirk. Let's get them all and make them pay for it. Yikes, dude. Yikes. I mean, dude, Paulo Costa is such a fucking moron. It's really, he's frighteningly stupid. But that right there sounds like a bit of an incitement to me, no? Let's get them all and make them all pay for it? Well, who are they? Who are they, Paulo? Who are you talking about? Are you talking about the left, or who is they? And when you say make them pay for it, what do you mean? Violence begets more violence, and this is the outcome of that. It's Boris. It's beyond belief with this guy. Sometimes it really is. Like he is such a brain dead fucking moron. Like it's just otherworldly with Paulo Costa sometimes. So thank you very much, Toby. Thanks for checking in, and thanks for making me aware of that. But of course, you see Charlie Kirk there with his 2 children. Obviously, the saddest element of all of this, aside from the loss of life. 2 young children without a father now. Horrific. All right, well, let me get the headphones on here because we are going to go over to Sean Strickland. Yes, that there, Boris, you took it right out of my mouth there. Yeah, so Sean Strickland. This is a little bit of a ramble, people. So we're gonna go. I'm just gonna let it play, and I'll kind of unpack some of what he says afterwards. But he goes in a lot of different directions in this. Some of it I sort of agree with to an extent, but other portions of it, it's Sean Strickland, yet another person who has a bit of a fucking gear loose up top, if you know what I mean. Unmute this. Actually, I'm just going to refresh it so that we get it from the beginning. All right, let's let this play. Oh, shoot, sorry. Hold on a second. I know that you guys can't hear that. Give me a second. 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Here we go. Take 2.
All right, guys, I'm gonna ramble on for a sec. Bear with me, but I'm on Twitter, and somebody says, "Hey, did you hear that Charlie Kirk got shot?" And my gut reaction was like, "No, I fucking didn't," but I'm excited. Like I felt this little dopamine spike in me, where I'm like, "Dude, I want to see the video." And then I seen the video, real bad, but I still kind of excited from it, like, "Oh shit," you know, like I could feel like my muscles tensing. And then I start thinking, man, well, what's gonna come from this? Was the shooter black? Was it a liberal? Am I going to get more fun? Am I going to get more violence? Let's burn this motherfucker down. I need some excitement. And then you start thinking, man, like, how the fuck did I become such a sociopath? Like, how am I so disattached from human beings? When people walk down the street, I don't even see people. I just see potential threats and problems. And then I think about, like, this is the last news cycle. We watched a girl get stabbed, murdered on a subway. We're watching little kids get pulled out of buildings because maybe somebody launched a rocket off of it. I don't fucking know why. But we are so desensitized and we're such sociopaths. It's kind of sad. I was walking through a park and there was a homeless guy with a dog, and the dog had a tennis ball in his mouth and dropped it at my feet. And like it was terrible. I wanted to fucking hit the homeless guy and take his dog home. It's like the saddest thing I've seen all day. And I just watched a man get murdered, and that was exciting. And I have to ask myself, like, how did we become a generation of sociopaths? And then I think about the 90s, and I think about the early 2000s, and I think about the second Iraq War, and I think about how the government, linked up with video games to make Call of Duty, and we would stay up until fucking all hours of the night with our friends shooting each other. Guns are cool, war is cool, death is cool. And like slowly they just manipulated us to be sociopathic consumers, and the only thing we want is stuff and things. And it's so sad that we let these people ruin America, and it's like taking the soul from us. They took God from us, they've taken everything from us, and we're just mindless sociopathic consumers. I don't know how to fix it, but I don't know, man. It's sad, it's frustrating, it's just sad.
All right. So, like I said, a lot to unpack there because he goes off in some pretty wild directions. But one thing that I do agree with that he says is that basically going to Hydra's point earlier, that like he says, we don't see each other as people anymore. We just see each other as things to be avoided and problems and enemies. It's like that aspect of it I do agree with. The rest, I mean, there's a lot going on there. I certainly don't think that video games are to blame necessarily. I mean, Jesus Christ, like that whole going back to the video games are the problem shit is like, I mean, that's been debunked like time and time again as like some just a dumb way of looking at things. There's no validity to that whatsoever. But I do think that there is potentially some element of what he's saying where it's not necessarily just the video games, but the idea of the glorification of war. And of course, we're in an MMA context here. We glorify violence in MMA. Obviously, that's in a sports capacity, but there are some people who can't extrapolate the two. And that's a problem. I mean, the idea that people are addicted to the negative aspects of things feeds into that, where it's like, yeah, war is cool. Like, yeah, that's a disgusting way to think, He's talking about people becoming sociopathic. Sociopathy is not necessarily what I think it is. I think it's just a feeding of the baser instinct that people have. It's not sociopathy. It's a surrender to the internal negativity that people possess inherently and continuously feeding it. It's the old, you have two wolves inside of you kind of thing. Well, the negative wolf is getting fed more than the positive one. Sean, I wanted to kick a homeless guy, Strickland. Yeah, I know. There you go. I mean, like, and Sean Strickland, a person that wrestles with that kind of stuff on a regular basis, I'm sure. And also, the fact that he's recording while he's driving, not a great thing either, but I digress. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the interesting take, somewhat nuanced, I would say, but not like in a profound way. Just one that's like, and then also, him bringing up the whole like consumerism aspect of things. Like, what does that have to do with anything? That we all just want stuff and things. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're saying that, like, that's the ultimate goal that fuels the political motivations, like the underlying causes of that, maybe. But I don't see the correlation there. Oh, they took God from us. Like, who took God from you? Who took God away from you, Sean Strickland? You can worship your God however you choose. Obviously, a lot of people are worshiping God the way that they choose, and they're choosing to do it in a way that ends up hurting a lot of people. So, like I said, a lot of points there. I don't necessarily want to pick every single one apart piece by piece, just because it's Sean Strickland. You know, it's going to be half. Like, he's like the most broken clock individual on the planet himself. Like, it's like he'll make a somewhat salient point, and then he'll just surround it with a bunch of utter nonsense. So it's not even really worth going through point by point. But there you go. There you have it from Sean Strickland. Not everyone wants to buy a bunch of guns and kick homeless people like you, Sean. Yeah. There, I mean, perhaps. And I have heard the whole debate, you know, the Second Amendment debate raging around this incident, of course, from multiple angles. One, people are saying, of course, oh, you know, if there were more guns in the area, then maybe the shooter would have been scared to do it. He wouldn't have had the stones to shoot a man if he had known that there were more armed people in the area. It's one way to look at it. A lot of people are criticizing Charlie Kirk for some comments that he had made years ago about there being an acceptable level of casualties due to gun violence, and that is the price that you pay to have guns so that you can protect your other individual liberties, your God-given liberties, he said. Still doesn't, you know, people are using that as like a whataboutism, or, you know, how the tables have turned kind of thing. And I don't think that is appropriate to do. How did they make you not believe in Jesus anymore? Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are again, the religious, like, victimhood syndrome on both sides. Both sides. I mean, on the victimhood of any religion, like, in general, is just kind of wild to me. Like, in this country, at least. And there are specific incidents where religions have been targeted. You know, Judaism, of course, target of hatred globally. This country is no different. You know, we had the mosque shooting in New Zealand, I believe it was. There was the church shooting in the Carolinas a few years ago as well. So there are religious motives to some of these things, for sure. That to me signals that religion is part of the problem. It's not, because we're gonna go to next here to, I believe it's Sam. Yeah, to Sam Alvey is where we're gonna go next here. Smiling Sam, saying that that Jesus is the only way. You know, we need God now more than ever, kind of thing. And I'm like, people are murdering in the name of their religion the same as they're murdering in the name of their politics. So, yeah, it's. I don't know. I mean, and to think that like getting rid of all of it would be the answer, I also do not agree with. Like, you know, as a non-believer and a person who does not fall into either political categories, I don't think that the abolition of those things is the answer. That's why I really do think that it's an underlying human problem, that it's not any one of these things, because every time that these types of things happen, people start grasping at the things that they think are the cause. It's religion, it's your political views, it's your social views, it's the you know, like the subdivisions that you belong to, as far as, like, you know, your hobbies and interests. Like, there's a million different ways, like the video games, hobbies and interests, a million different reasons that people grasp onto when it comes to these things. And I don't see any of them actually being the problem. I see humans being the problem, and a deeper fundamental flaw in humanity. Love thy neighbor. Yeah, exactly. And if more people actually, like, ascribed to the beliefs that their religion espouses, then then there might actually be some civility, but it's deeper than that. Some of these days do feel a bit extra weird, but doesn't mental health account for most of these extreme situations? Mental health certainly plays a huge part in it. Absolutely it does. I think that that's maybe even one of the largest aspects of it, and that goes, Michael, to the point I was making about it being a human problem. all of the aspects that I just outlined: religion, politics, your hobbies and interests, the people you surround yourself with, socioeconomic factors. All of those play a part in shaping your mental state. And when the world is in a state of chaos, your mental state, by extension, becomes more chaotic and rattled and frazzled. And people who are prone to extremes become more extreme because of those things. So yes, I think that mental health plays a huge part in all of this. Absolutely. But I do think it's a little bit short-sighted and narrow-focused to think that mental illness is the only factor. It's probably the most prominent factor, but looking at it holistically, the division of politics, the division of mankind, the tribalization of mankind goes hand in hand with the compromised mental state. The guy on the train had a long history of violent attacks and schizophrenia. Yeah, absolutely. In that case, it was 100% mental illness, I would say. Like, when a person is that mentally ill that you just randomly attack a person unprovoked, then the other underlying motives kind of go out the window, I would say. And that's what it's a spectrum. There's a barometer to it. It's all points on the spectrum. Like, so it's like, if you have mental illness as one of the factors, you have like a Venn diagram of mental illness, ideology, and then socioeconomic factors, I would say. And then it's just a ratio of all of those things that combine. So in the train stabbing, mental illness, I would say, is kind of almost a full circle by itself. But then if you talk about something like the Charlie Kirk situation, it's a little bit more overlapped with other things. Hope that makes sense. I think that kind of made sense, at least in my own mind. All right, let's listen to what Sam Alvey has to say about this situation. He's going to start off with this clip of Sean Strickland, and then he's going to give his own thoughts.
Ramble on for a sec, bear with me. But I'm on Twitter, and somebody says, "Hey, did you hear that Charlie Kirk got shot?" And my gut reaction was like, "No, I fucking didn't, but I'm excited."
And that's the difference between Strickland and I. I was not immediately vengeful when I heard it. I was sad. Charlie Kirk has now left this planet, and he was a good man. He was one of the best men. And the sadness comes not for him. I know good and well he is sitting at the right-hand side of God right at this moment, but for his family, for his friends, for his business, the struggles they will have to. He had 2 children, 1 and 3, and they will never be held by their daddy again. His wife will never speak to him again. And it's terrible. The ideology that cannot stand somebody disagreeing with them, respectfully disagreeing with them, to the point where they have to take the shot, is disgusting. It is such a weak mind. It is such a terrible person that could be thrown to violence over words. It's disgusting. We need to pray for those in the world that share an ideology with that shooter. We need to pray they find Jesus, because Jesus is the only one that will be able to break them out of that evil. Jesus, God, is the only one that will be able to bring them away from that darkness. And we need to pray for them as much as it hurts, because it is that ideology that just took one of the best of us out of it. It is that ideology that keeps taking shots at us. It is that ideology that tries for violence and then preaches against us if ever we stand up for ourselves. We need to pray for them. We need them to find Jesus. We need the good Lord to touch them on the shoulder and them to accept it.
All right. So I think that was a much more cogent statement on the matter. I think that Sam Alvey is obviously coming from a place of compassion in what he says. And, I thought that was a pretty good response. Now, I don't agree that turning to religion is going to make things better. As I just said, I feel like religion is a big part of what divides humanity. But I don't have a better answer So I mean, I don't offer a better counterpoint. So hard to hard to say, oh, it's not that, it should be this. I like, also, all of these religious people, like, you've been religious and you've been praying. I would think that a lot of the good religious people, like Sam Alvey, have been holding the world in their prayers. Oh, we need a better world. Please, Jesus, get us to a better state of existence. And it only seems to be getting worse. So perhaps religion has not been helpful in this regard. I also don't think that Charlie Kirk was necessarily a great man. He's saying he's one of the greatest men. No, I don't think so. I think that he was problematic in the political discourse. Him and people like him. Again, that has nothing to do with the fact that he was murdered. Of course, those are two separate trains of thought, two separate thoughts. He did not deserve to be murdered over his political beliefs, but I do believe that he was part of the problem. He was fueling the fire in that regard. So, anyway, just but I do think that Sam Alvey comes at this from a place of compassion. So I thought that was a pretty good response. And as a religious person, that's how he thinks that it should be fixed. But I can't agree with that aspect of it. All this Trump stuff does seem to kick people up a notch. Maybe that's part of what you're getting at. If so, then I mean, it's Trump is the logical end point of all of this, it would seem, but it's a radicalization of people in general. Yeah. I mean, and Trump certainly kicked that up to a heavy extent, I would say. I really can't remember another political leader in this country, like at any level, not just a president, but at any level, a person who incites the type of rhetoric and the type of action that this president and this administration has fostered. But I wouldn't go blaming that specifically. It's just one of many elements that all converge to become the problem. And it really does weigh on you, I mean, I think that goes without saying. That, like, every day to see these kinds of things, to see a girl stabbed in the neck, and then to go directly to seeing Charlie Kirk shot in the neck, after seeing Psycho Stu almost murdered in the ring, and all of the other things like it that we are constantly being bombarded with. You just feel your soul being chipped away at, like a sculptor taking pieces of a statue away, Hey, I remember in the good old days getting creeped out by Bush Jr., but things seem even stranger now. Yeah, gosh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and, don't get that part twisted either. I mean, like, all of the wars that have been raging around the world forever are in and of themselves atrocities. They're atrocities that we have been conditioned to find normal. My good friend Rwand, you'll see Rwand pop up in the chat every once in a while. Rwand is a great person. He's a kind-hearted individual. He lives in a place called Kurdistan, which is racked by violence constantly. It's just an area of the world that is under siege at all times, it would seem. And it's normalized over there. So people are dying at all, that's just one example of a place in the world. There are places all around the world where violence is normalized. We've been conditioned to be okay with that. Now it's the next step, the logical next step is it creeping in to our lives, to our little bubble. Oh, that kind of stuff could never happen in the United States. Well, it's happening in the United States. Not to that extent yet. Hopefully never. Hopefully never in the big picture, but day over day. That that ideology does things against us. Not a fan of that language. Yeah, definitely that. I mean, and I want to believe in Sam Alvey's case, what he's saying is that ideology being like the ideology of a murderous person, as opposed to a political ideology specifically. Because he was saying like the ideology of a person who would, go to that extreme over words and not actually have a civilized conversation, I think kind of transcends the political aspect of it. I'm hoping, I don't know. I don't want to put words in Sam Alvey's mouth. We're being desensitized to violence. Are we being desensitized to violence, or do we just, did we adjust to an unusually peaceful time? It's a good question. That is a good question. Did we just adjust to a peaceful time, an unusually peaceful time? Both. I think both. And I think that the desensitization of violence is what leads to the creeping back in of an unpeaceful time. It's that cycle, strong men create good times create weak men, but that whole thing. I don't necessarily agree with that 100%. I'm just saying that like the cycle goes, if you are complacent and comfortable in a somewhat seemingly comfortable situation, and the rest of the world is not peaceful. That's, I think, the flaw in the question is that it's an unusually peaceful time here where we are, but the world hasn't been peaceful. The rest of the world has been living with this. So it's not like it's been idyllic all over the place and then all of a sudden now it's just starting to crop back up. We've been turning a blind eye and as the average citizens, because what can we do? I'm not trying to say that in like, oh, we should have been doing more, because what can we do? What can anybody do? Talk about it more? Shine a light on it more? I remember back when Syria was a big issue, which it still is a big issue. Obviously, the war in Syria is still raging to this day. But I remember people saying like, that like, oh, well, like what you need to do is we need to bring more attention to it. We need to bring it more into the spotlight. And yes, it should certainly be covered, and it should certainly be people should certainly be aware of it. But what exactly do you do? Does the entire world just say we have to go in there and fix it? And then who gave us that authority, and who is right even within that subdivision? So it's like, if you and me have different political beliefs, but we both think that taking care of that problem is a priority, then which of us gets to decide what the right way to handle it is? So there's a lot of deeper detail and nuance in there. Devil's in the details when it comes to that kind of thing. In the United States and, in Canada, of course, where you are, Hydra, I would say that, yeah, there is an extent of the peaceful times kind of giving us a little bit of sense of complacency, but we've been seeing mass shootings going on a regular basis. We've been seeing, I thought that after Sandy Hook, things were going to change. I was like, you don't have an entire school, an elementary school of children that get murdered and nothing changes. Nothing changed. So if things continue to not change, then they just go in the same direction that they're trending. But what is the change? And if the change is a tyrannical oversight of the populace, that in and of itself is a terrible thing. So I don't see a good answer to the question. You know what I mean? I don't see a good answer to the equation. Like I can't see what a good way forward is, aside from people somehow coming together and saying, we need to just be better to each other. We need to be more loving, more compassionate individuals to each other. But that seems like something that just isn't going to happen. Nothing ever changes? Well, some things do change. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk was still with us. So some things change. Some things definitely change. All right, this is Tito Ortiz. He also had a statement about this.
So I just got back from practice of coaching my kids, and just seen what happened to Charlie. And oh my God. I pray for Erica. I pray for the family. I had an opportunity to meet Charlie on a few occasions. He's an amazing man. He was being a father and just a person trying to fight for this country. Don't let him break us. We gotta pray for Charlie. This is really important. I pray for the family. He's just trying to do good. The devils came and he showed his colors. Try to separate this country as much as they are. Don't let them divide us at all. Right now, we need to pray for Charlie. Wicked, wicked. Evil's wicked. But God, Jesus will prevail, as he always has and always will be. Pray for Charlie Kirk.
So, Tito, in the same breath, saying that, Charlie is this great man, and, all of the things that, the Jesus aspect and all of this, and then saying, it will not divide us. Charlie was part of the division, sadly. And I'm constantly having to preface the statements or qualify the statements by saying he did not deserve to be murdered. Of course, it should go without saying. But Charlie was part of the division. He's saying, we will not be divided. Jesus will prevail. That's a contradictory statement. Leave it to 20-gallon head Tito over here to illuminate the division for you by saying that we will not be divided. Amazing. Wearing a family, faith, and freedom shirt. Exactly. Don't be divided at all. Also pray for my specific deity. Yeah, right. Don't be divided at all. But this great man who, was a conservative-sided political pundit, was speaking the truth. He gets murdered for speaking the truth. Well, I mean, obviously, a very large group of people who are opposed to his ideology thought otherwise. And it's not right that it happened. But to think that, the divisions, are there is no division or that we will not be divided further. It only strengthens the divide. Come together, his statement is basically come together around the ideology that Charlie Kirk had. That is not going to fix this problem. We need everyone to think the same way. How do you get people all to think the same way? Well, you can either convince everybody to think the same way, or you can force everyone to think the same way. Those are your only two options. I was just going to say religion by some sort of definition is a bunch of divisions. Of course it is. Absolutely. We want the divisions as human beings. That is like I've been saying time and time again now, that is the bigger issue to me. It's a human problem. We want to be tribalized. Tribalization, if you're not aware of the term, is when people divide themselves arbitrarily into groups based on specific attributes. So, red versus blue. I'm the blue team, you're the red team. I'm Jewish, you're a Christian. I'm, a Democrat, you're a Republican. It's like, and when you radicalize those groups and people tie so much of their identity to those things, it all just snowballs. So it's just to think that there is not going to be further division because of this. You're already seeing it on social media right now. The conversation surrounding this is already the division in action. I saw a couple of a compilation of TikToks of a bunch of liberals all celebrating this death. Disgusting. Putrid. I saw the other side. We need to annihilate the liberals. The liberals need to be exterminated. That's dangerous speak. But that's what it is. It's the division. It's not just a left and a right. It's all of the dividing lines that people arbitrarily have placed for themselves. However you want to divide yourself from other people because it makes you feel special to be in a group. American History X taught us this if you really broke down that film. You know, the whole idea of being a neo-Nazi was so that there was a sense of community in it. Anyway, sorry, I just trying to keep from going really, really overboard with all of this stuff. But you know, when people feel isolated, they seek out community. And when you divide people into communities and weaponize that community against other communities, these types of things happen. I have a few more here. This is Colby Covington saying, one of the brightest minds of this generation was taken from us today. Charlie was a patriot, a leader, a kind soul, but most importantly, he was a husband and a father. Pray for his family and pray for America. Well, as I had said, you know, one of the brightest minds of this generation is probably a little bit hyperbolic. You know, I do believe that he was a divider in and of himself. But again, you know, it goes back to stuff I've already said a million times here. So that's Colby Covington. You know, you could kind of imagine that that was going to be the take that he would have. And get to Aljamain Sterling's take in a second here, because I do think that Aljamain had the best take of all of them. People just need to be normal, I swear to God. Dude, there is no normalcy. There is no normalcy, because you know what normalcy would be in this instance is an underlying fundamental human respect and an empathy. And I believe that, you know, people have been saying that Charlie Kirk specifically said that he hated the word empathy. I don't know if that's true or not. I was not able to fact check that. So I'm not going to say that that's actually the case or not. But there are people I have heard, actually Lindsay Ellis's latest video. She had a compilation of people talking about their aversion to the idea of empathy. And that, I think, is at the core of a lot of this. In addition to all of the other things that I've said, you know, we've gone over a lot of different elements of this, but, you know, a lack of fundamental human compassion and empathy definitely plays a big part. Pair that with mental illness, and then you get a lot of this. Find community in your community, not with some extremist freaks. Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be within your community. I mean, you can, you know, like you can find community in any number of ways, and very positive communities, you know? I mean, there are plenty of places to find that, but when it's a radicalization and you're tying your whole identity to it to the point where you want to become a weapon of the idea, you know, because that's what a lot of this is that I am an extension of the idea. So you have an idea that I find contrary to my viewpoint. I am the vessel of retribution. I am the dividing factor that is going to silence your point of view because I am the fix. I come in to right the wrong. I am the correction to the equation. That's very dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. In fact, that is in line with the Third Reich's leaders' final solution, basically, right? I have identified the problem, and I am here to fix the problem. Aljamain Sterling says, R.I.P. to Charlie Kirk. Just because you don't agree with someone's opinions doesn't mean you just get to start killing people. Debate, dispute, agree to disagree. You got to be a dark human being to want to kill people over different likes, preferences, and opinions. That's what makes us special. We are all different, but one people. I thought that was the best take that I had heard from the MMA community on this subject. Yeah, I agree with Aljamain Sterling 100% here. I think that Aljamain Sterling is the bright light in a very dark pool of ideologies that are viewpoints rather that are continuing to further negative ideologies. You got Renato Moicano on one side of the spectrum. I think Aljamain Sterling is on the other side of the spectrum, and I agree with Aljamain Sterling 100% here. So that's Aljamain's take. Either be normal and go outside in your community or be part of Yama Gang. Only two options. Well, I appreciate that. See, and, you know, hopefully this community is one that, you know, compassion and empathy are viable, you know, viable human characteristics that can sustain, you know, try to keep it pleasant and fundamentally civil. You know, I mean, that's really, I mean, you know, because I'm pretty loose when it comes to the chat. You know what I mean? Like, I will let people, give them a good amount of leeway to say what they want to say. And I mean, you know, anytime that somebody has a disagreeing opinion with me, as long as they're keeping it civil, you know, even trolling sometimes, you know, I mean, we had that troll on the last event watch along for Paris. Let him keep going for quite a good amount of time. Because I believe in the open exchange of ideas. So I want that to always be how the Yama community operates. You know, we can all disagree. We don't all have to agree with, you know, with what each other thinks about these things. But there needs to be a bedrock of civility and human empathy within that. Take that and extend that to the rest of your life. From Yama to the world. Why was Kirk so looked at from the left? Why was Kirk so looked at from the left? I've seen like half a YouTube short of him talking on campus, but I'm not sure about all of his shenanigans. Because the left is as weaponized as the right at times. Because people are going out of their way to find the enemy. This was something that I noticed a lot back in the cancel culture days, which I mean is still kind of a thing, but not really anymore. But more of like when the like skeptic community on YouTube was a big thing, and feminism was a hot debate. You'd see a lot of that because it's like I found myself in that camp for a while. Where, you know, I had a certain set of beliefs and I was watching a lot of YouTube videos of people commenting on the other side because they were seeking out things to rebut, things to retort, things to be offended by. Which is funny because my side of the equation was always, I am against cancel culture. So I would seek out people who sought out things to be upset about, and by extension, they were almost counteracting their own statements, their own viewpoint. So... yeah, so that's why the left was so aware of him. That's why the left looked at, you know, was so on top of what he was saying. They do the same with Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens and, you know, who would pick a commentator. Same with the other side. I'm sure that David Pakman gets political conservatives on him all the time. The Young Turks, you know, Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian. You know, it's the culture war to an extent when it's only conversation. But when it bleeds over into actual violence, then it becomes something different. He just goes to campuses and does cringy debates. He said some pretty out there stuff on podcasts, but nothing unsurprising. Yeah, sure. I mean, didn't Nick Fuentes almost get assassinated recently too? Nick Fuentes is even more extreme than he is. Nick Fuentes is like borderline neo-Nazi, am I wrong? I mean, he certainly has a lot of very strong and very negative opinions about the Jews. He also does not deserve to be murdered. He also has every right to say the things that he says. They're bigoted and gross. But to silence them with violence is not the answer. I think that's also part of the equation as well, is that the things that these people say grow audiences, and those audiences believe the things that they say, even sometimes stronger than the people who are saying them. And there is no center ground. There is no middle place that people can agree to disagree on. In their own minds, anyway. Again, it's a human problem. It's fun to be upset and argue. That's what friends are for and why we have sports to talk about. Now people do it over wars and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely, yeah. And I definitely do think like the team sports aspect of it is a big part of it too, for sure. That's why I was talking about the tribalization. That's a team sports mentality, us versus them, red team, blue team. Yeah, when you bring it into a something more real, something that is more impactful on your day-to-day existence, and something that is at your front door, becomes something a lot different. Absolutely. I think I had mentioned this before. At one point in my life, years ago, many, many years ago now, I was pretty politically minded. I actually wanted to be a speechwriter. I thought that that would be a good use of my skills as a writer. And I wanted to go into politics and be a speechwriter. I'm very glad that I did not do that. One of the reasons that I thought that it would have been a good path was because of that fueling of the desire to be offended and angered. People, it's a drug, man. It really is. It's a drug to an extent. It's intoxicating to feel that way. People wear their emotions like a cloak over their shoulders. And you have a visceral reaction to negativity, so sometimes you seek it out to become apoplectic about it, to become exhausted by it. Perhaps I've missed the extreme type shit these dudes are doing because you avoid it. Yeah, and good for you for that. I mean, I think it's healthy to be aware of it. I think it's healthy to be aware that it exists, but in avoiding it, you have made a conscious choice in the type of rhetoric you consume. That's how I look at that. Like, it's okay to be aware that those people exist, but by consciously saying that I am not going to consume that content, I am by extension saying I don't agree with what they have to say. Let's move on to galaxy-brained Jake Paul, who is also chiming in on this. Jake Paul says, Charlie Kirk got shot for telling the truth. See, there you go. Again, the division in action with big-brained Jake over here. He got shot for telling the truth. That's why he got shot. He was telling the truth. Well, not as the shooter saw it. What Charlie said was the truth. If I don't agree with what you think, it's not the truth. This is the division in action. So he says Charlie Kirk got shot for telling the truth. That's literally it. That's all that it was. Couldn't have been anything else. Couldn't have been anything farther than that. It's a black and white issue. There is no gray area at all. What a mentally sick time we are living through. Do agree with that. We need God more than ever. Division. Praying for Charlie's family and praying for these evil people to heal. Well, from your mouth to God's ears there, Jake. Hopefully the truth prevails. Ugh. Honestly, Fuentes having a large audience that he consistently shouts about the evil Jews at, and he still can do it, proves that there aren't evil Jews. Yeah, no shit, right? I mean, that really, like, I think at the end of the day, that's one of, you know, and speaking from the nihilistic standpoint, that's one of the saddest things about all of this. Everything that we're talking about here, if you really break it down, the world just keeps going. Tomorrow, we will wake up, Charlie Kirk will not, and the debate will still rage on. We will continue to go about our lives, we will die, and the world will continue on. All of these people who are fighting so tooth and nail for this idealized version of a humanity as they see fit because they have the right opinions and answers will also perish, and the world will go on. And none of this will have mattered. Senseless. It's senseless. The whole debate is senseless. I've always said people are tribal. Trump nonsense aside, violence seems so sadly unavoidable. It feels like more so now, though. It really feels more so now. And I don't know, maybe I just wasn't, I was younger in, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s even. But it just feels like it's gotten so much worse. Like, definitely since Columbine, definitely since 9/11. That it's just a fact of life. It's just part of our society that, and I had said earlier too on the stream that, there was a mass shooting in Denver also today. It wasn't a large loss of life, but there were, multiple people shot, I believe, at a school in Denver. So, there are school shootings all the time. Florida, I mean, dude, where I live, Central Florida, one of the worst mass shootings in the history of the country happened at the Pulse nightclub. Again, divisions. People being executed for their sexuality. But it just feels like it just has been heating up so much. And again, this is the extension of that. A continuation of it. People are being shot just for telling the truth. No wonder Jake is still safe. Yeah. Well, again, you have to remember that Jake has the IQ of a peanut. So, this is from Gordon Ryan, the steroid-loving, non-cycled skinny guy. He says, watch the video of poor Charlie. Watch the video on the train where Dems keep releasing that waste of life. Watch the video of the president. We don't want to see these videos. We need to see these videos. This is the Democratic Party in 2025. Thoughts and prayers have failed. The legal system has failed. What's next? Gordon Ryan is legitimately dog whistling for violence in this. And specifically against the Democrats. So you want to talk about divisions? I saved this one for last because this to me is, this is the worst of what could come from something like this. He might not be specifically spelling it out in black and white as all of this is, but he is legitimately dog whistling for violence. Thoughts and prayers have failed. The legal system has failed. What's next? Huh? So Gordon Ryan's a fucking piece of shit. And this is gross as well. And it feeds. And that's what why I was saying it's an extension. I keep saying that term. I keep using that term. It's an extension of a snowballing effect. It all snowballs. It continues to snowball. The rhetoric gets more and more violent. The social media discourse, the feeding of the negativity grows and grows. If this was like, if you could realize negativity, it would consume the world. It would be the ozone layer at this point. Saying prayer has failed as a supposed Christian is wild. Yeah. What he's advocating for is not Christian in the slightest. But again, people take religion and warp it to their own set of external values. They weaponize it. This is all weaponization. This right here is legitimate weaponization. Like Gordon Ryan is like, this is very, very, like, I don't know. This is like borderline speech to me. This might be crossing the line to an extent, but I don't think that it necessarily 100% is. But like I said, the only speech that I disavow is incitement to violence. And this is very close to that, in my opinion. Because really, if you read between the lines, he's saying, go out and be violent. Specifically against a group of people as well. He's weaponizing it against, an opposing faction. So, this is really bad. Like, this right here is real bad. from Gordon Ryan. That's why, like I said, I saved this for the end, because this to me is, again, more of the propagation of the negativity. It feeds, it grows, it festers, it morphs, and it exacerbates what is already metastasizing. So that's about it for this. Yeah, how much more blatant can you get? Yeah, I know. Exactly. I mean, it's the worst. I think on this too. I mean, here
in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, to emphasize what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea.
Yeah, I thought that was a kind of, I mean, again, gallows humor, but I thought that it was kind of humorous that this person on MSNBC thinking that this could have been a supporter firing their gun in celebration. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But on here, he says in this post, when are we going to take the country back from liberals? Asking for Americans. Of course, liberals are not Americans. We're Americans with our ideology. When are we going to take the country back from liberals? Asking for Americans. This is getting to the point where the people who just want to be left alone are about to be forced to take their gloves off. Unbelievable. I mean, take their gloves off how? With hands? It's going to be hands that do it. Mainstream media, you've done it again. Yeah, I know, exactly. And still, and you know, and to that point too, again with the divisions and stuff, how sad that it's so predictable that MSNBC is going to report it one way, Fox News is going to report it the other way. We cannot drop the bullshit dog and pony show politicism for a second. It's too ingrained. It's too ingrained. It's too deep. It's too at the core of the money-making machine and the ideology that guides the principle. Pathetic. It's fucking pathetic. How is MSNBC going to cover this story? I don't know. I wonder how they're going to cover it. Are they going to cover it from a shockingly left point of view? No, couldn't be that. How's Fox News going to cover this? From a ridiculously right-wing point of view? This is my shocked face. So, anyway, that's about it. That's really all that I have for this one. I know that a lot of the people that were in the chat earlier filed out. I appreciate all you guys that have hung out. If there's any other stuff that you guys want to talk about regarding this, I can stay on for a couple minutes longer to kind of talk it over, but that's really all that I have to say about this as far as my points of view. That was as many of the MMA community's points of view as I could find, so if there are other fighters who are speaking about this, then, you know, you can let me know, and you know, I can pop it up on screen, I guess, but that's pretty much the long and the short of it. I think I've made my points pretty clear. It's a deeper problem. It's a human problem, and it's not one that I see getting better, unfortunately. And, you know, there are so many movies and so many science fiction books and television series about the end of the world, and it's like, it just feels hard to say that we're, like, it's tough to think that we're not trending towards worse. And hopefully it won't be the end of, like, civilization as we know it. But it's hard to think that it's not getting worse day over day. You know, people talk about, like, you know, the chat constantly asking about my dating life. You know, they ask how you doing on the apps and stuff. And I think about things like that in that context, because I'm like, I'm single. I don't have any children. Were I to be in a relationship and want to start a family, like, would that even be fair to the potential child if I were to have one? You know? Bringing a child into this world seems tantamount to child abuse, which is a crazy thing to say, but it does feel that way. tantamount to war crimes. MSNBC implying that conservatives are stupid enough to accidentally shoot their own speaker. Yeah, bro, right? That just, yeah, they're just all those people with guns out there in the crowd just going Frito Bandito, just firing guns off into the air. And one just happened to hit the guy that they were there to see in the neck. How many rallies have you ever seen conservatives at where they're just randomly shooting guns off in the air? Something has got to get better. My whole generation is so fed up with the entire world at this point. Something has to change. Well, I mean, so, okay, you make a good point there, but Charlie Kirk was considered one of the most prominent voices of young conservatism. So the generations just continuously get what the last generations have left over for them. I feel like it's my generation and my parents' generations that have truly fucked it up for the rest of civilization going forward. We've just taken everything to such an extreme. And it feeds into itself. It's a progression. It's a timeline that we are living out. People like Charlie Kirk were furthering the next phase of the ideology for the youth. So same with the young Democrats, and any political ideology or whatever, any arbitrary division. The same with the identity politics of the LGBTQ community and the people who hate them. That was a big part of the whole culture war back in 2017. And the third wave feminism and all that stuff I was talking about earlier. Pronouns and the like, that sort of stuff. I mean, it's just, we're going to lock in and fix this shit. Hydra, well, I will say, man, in the short time that you've been coming to the chat, if there's anybody that I think should be part of the solution, it's absolutely you. Because you seem like an extremely level-headed individual for such a young man. So kudos to your parents for raising a fine young gentleman. But I just hope that there are more like you out there. I hope that there's compassion anywhere in this world at going forward. Because it really does feel like dark times. And it feels like it's been dark for a while. It feels like the socioeconomic situation has continued to worsen as well, which also feeds into all of this, because when people are not comfortable in their homes, they act out. There just needs to be a fundamental shift in so much of life, and I don't know if there's going to be. But either way, I guess that's going to be about it for today. Rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. As I said, did not agree with a lot of what he had to say. Did not agree with the further division of people. But he is a person that had a family and had every right to say the things that he said. And now there are 2 children without a father and a wife without a husband. And that's very sad. So rest in peace to this man. Politics aside. Our yamified corner of the internet will spread, and with us, more positivity will follow. Well, that's a nice way to end this stream. So thank you for a little bit of positivity to end things, Hydra. All right. Well, screw the plugs. We'll be back on Saturday. So Saturday, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do the Bruised review this week. So we're probably going to do that next week. Possibly over the weekend, but most likely next week. So until Saturday, have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. Stay safe, stay positive if you can, and fight on.
Hey.